Hey, I want to talk about Spider-Man 2. I'm a little bit behind. I'm a really, really big fan about Spider-Man, so, I'm very, very disappointed with this film, I have to say. But first thing first, I moved into a new house. I have a haircut because I got into a bike accident and there's a scar right there. I gotta chop the whole thing off. And it's a new year. I really wanted to talk about some movies, but I've been recuperating, so I wasn't in the condition to actually talk about them. So, first things first, let's just start with spoilers. Alright, we got the death of Gwen Stacy storyline, and it's a really complicated thing because it's been hinted at throughout all of the media, all of the trailers, everything. And so it's not that much of a surprise. It rings really, really hollow in this film. Now, the reason why I bring that up is that the reason why this is so important is about the responsibility Peter Parker has about dating someone. Here, it's kind of different, because the responsibility of dating someone is represented through her ghost dad, which keeps popping up at bad times and makes Peter want to dump Gwen Stacy, and it begins this on-again, off-again romance, which is really good, actually. I thought that part I would have watched instead of this movie. The problem is that Gwen Stacy starts the movie with a funeral speech at a graduation. So throughout the entire movie, you just have like a countdown clock. Think about when she's going to die. And then throughout that, you have her moving to England, and then she gives the speech, this is my choice, this is my choice, this is my choice. So, again, like I said, the father is a good enough motivator for Peter Parker to decide why he wants to dump her. Here, she's being proactive, and she's saying that she wants to move on, which is great for a modern movie, but this isn't going to work out for helping Spider-Man just grow as a person. So then the death comes, and then it rings hollow because they bring back the same speech, which doesn't really work because it's the same speech. It doesn't feel like a double meaning. It's trying to help Peter let go and become a superhero again, but even still, that isn't that well written. It really isn't that well defined. Peter because it's a real mess, because after the death of Gwen Stacy, he just sits there and maybe like 6 months go by and he just is brooding. And this is happening in a span of maybe 2 minutes, which isn't, it's such a weird thing. And I don't know. I mean, she's a very proactive woman, and that's really, really great. But, it's kind of weird that you're seeing the fight scene of the Green Goblin, she's just sitting there, compared to the other movies where she was actually, the last movie where she was helping him out set up the serum in order to stop the whole lizard virus thing. But still, so the death happens. It's good that it's at least that there is some death involved in this movie, but there's so many deaths involved that Peter Parker isn't learning. In fact, he's getting a get out of jail free card by not taking any responsibility for it and not having the weight of his problems of being Spider-Man in this. She died because she put herself into this situation. It's not that well done. If they could have done the speech better, if they could have handled her motivations better, then yes, this could have totally worked. Because, again, this isn't Peter Parker's responsibility. None of this is Peter Parker's responsibility. And that's my biggest problem with the movie. It kind of ruins Peter Parker. Second problem that I have with the movie is the spider DNA. As much as the first movie was going to reveal his origin, the second movie actually does it a little bit better, in that the venom that the spider DNA creates can only be hooked up with Peter Parker's DNA, and only Peter Parker's DNA. So this ruins Spider-Man. This ruins Spider-Man in that ability that anybody could be Spider-Man. It could be a man, it could be a woman, it could be a black guy, it could be an old woman. That was the thing that was so amazing about Spider-Man, and that's why we love reading about it. That's why every kid loves reading about it, and here it's the DNA, so it's a destiny thing. Now, this becomes a bigger problem with the whole Oscorp thing, but it's just very odd, because the father is this super genius who has his own trained lab with photos of himself doing science stuff. It's really, really a bad scene, but it's weird. It becomes this weird James Bond kind of thing, and it takes away from the everyday man aspects of Spider-Man. The thing that makes Spider-Man so great is like him trying to patch up his suit, him trying to just deal with getting the job. You know, that's why everybody reads Spider-Man. That's why everyone bonds well with Spider-Man. Here it's like destiny, and throughout the entire movie he doesn't do everyday things. Now, where am I? Had it organized here for a second. Yeah, I think another weird thing is having Oscorp be the end-all solution of everything. At some point, there is a little bit of fun having a evil corporation have no ethics in order to let everything go buck wild in there. But the fact that Rhino is kind of a tank and not really a mutated thing doesn't really seem to work. What genetics did he have at Oscorp? They don't really explain. They just show weird things on him and he's just running around shooting. He doesn't have any abilities. Instead, at the end of the movie, you get like the giant robot tank. And that doesn't help. And then on top of that, you just see the scene with all the tentacles, everything, the vulture wings and everything. And it's all there waiting for the next film. So they're just going to pick random people? Are we going to have origin arcs all over again? Now, that's really the weakest thing about this movie. We have 3 villains in here. Rhino I already talked about. Electro is a very odd thing. He gets ignored around at odd points. He feels just like an odd thing altogether. A very Joel Schumacher kind of design. It feels campy. There's a gap in his teeth, but even when you see the gap, you can see the marker that they put in, and you can still see his teeth. Like, I have a gap in my teeth, and you can see the gums go in between. He doesn't have that. You can actually see the tooth right where the marker's supposed to be. So it just ruins that element. It just becomes really, really schlocky with this weird music going on. Outside of that, there's Green Goblin also, who gets a good portion of the movie. And it's a very odd thing, because it just makes me reiterate how much better they handled him in the Sam Raimi trilogy. Because they had so much more time to develop him as a friend, how he runs Oscorp really, really badly, and just eventually becoming Green Goblin. Now, a lot of people don't like Spider-Man 3, but I think what works about Spider-Man 3 is that it's all about responsibility. Because Spider-Man 3, he is so high on his own success that he walks over Mary Jane, and then it later embodies into Venom. So that's a really good arc with Sam Raimi, what he did with that movie. It's a little bit too long, and it feels too overindulgent, which is why the whole series failed. But also, there was too much crap in it that Sam Raimi couldn't even justify. He wanted only Sandman and only Sandman. But then he had to force in all these other elements because they wanted to make sequels, and then we got this movie, which is so much crap put in by the studio that it just feels like a mess. So Harry Osborn has a very, very little time to set up his Sinister Six thing, and then he's got less than, just like near the end, he just becomes the Goblin, kills Gwen Stacy, and then that's it. You know, it's kind of like he's off till the next film. It's such a really weird scene. He's naturally creepy, but I don't know. I mean, like, at the best moments of these movies are where they just take a little bit of time. Like, Norman Osborn's deathbed scene is really, really good, but that's it. I kind of wanted more Norman Osborn, but it's such an odd thing. It's like there's not enough dynamic between Harry and Peter to understand them working. And then later, when eventually Spider-Man does meet with Harry, he kind of like flips out. It's like he starts with, "You provide hope," and then later it's like, "You're lying to me," and stuff like that, and then he goes and cries into a pillow. It's really, really bad. It's just, if they didn't have to cram this down into this one film, and just such a mess. Because the problem with this film is that the whole studio involvement and just forcing all these characters in. We've got Felicia Harding, who's in there. Is she going to be in the next movie? Is she really Black Cat? is she? Why is she even in here? Because she has such an important role, and well, not really that important, but it's just such a scene right there. And then we got Smythe, who creates the Spider Slayers, but is he gonna later do that in the next film? Why are there so many characters? It doesn't help build world building. Now, having Aunt May get a job to help build that's such a brief subplot, and it's actually a very, very good idea, but then it doesn't get handled very, very well. It's only there so you can see the hospital scene later and see this bigger world. It's weird. It's like they want to build this world through names and try to show the city. But then we got this weird city where they want to see fights every day, that they have barricades. Just, I don't know, I mean, such a weird movie. It's very, very lighthearted than the last movie. It's too much lighthearted that it almost feels like Joel Schumacher territory, which is very strange. Because Sam Raimi lives in lightheartedness. He wants to entertain anyone from any age. He understood that. Here, it's like we don't get enough time for characters. We don't get enough motivation for characters. It's such a mess. It just bummed me out. Well, I think I should start talking about the positives. I mean, I do like Andrew Garfield a lot. He looks like he really, 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 really is Spider-Man. There's some good scenes in the daytime where you actually see the suit actually flap in the breeze, which is really cool. I've never seen anything like that. There's the stuff with him practically, not CG, is amazing. Although I'm going to go back with a negative again, I don't think there's a single action scene in here that isn't spoiled from the trailers. So, what does the movie do? It just kind of ruins it for you. You know, like, there's not an action set piece that is up to par with the train scene in Spider-Man 2. Nothing on that level. It's a mess. I honestly am bummed out by this movie. I don't think they're going to do a good job with Sinister Six. It's going to be a different director. That's a good thing. That really is. But the studio doesn't know what they're doing. They're just cramming in more characters. It really does seem that Mark Webb likes the relationship between Mary Jane and I'm sorry, not Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker. He actually makes it feel like I would watch that movie. I would watch that movie in a heartbeat. But here, it's just, there's so much stuff happening. There are characters in here for a short, brief second to set up the next film, and they don't do that well of a job. Apparently, Electro survives this fight, but that doesn't make any sense. Why did he survive? That's such a weird thing. I mean, the biggest thing is, I did see Captain America, and what I like about Captain America was that they were able to develop something new. They weren't doing an exact adaptation of Winter Soldier, they were doing something more. And they were doing something more current. Here, this is a weird sort of thing where they kind of want to have the campy elements. Nothing is really modern in here. There's some retreading, and it's just a mess. It's a mess, and it just bummed me out. You know, kind of like, I really love Spider-Man. He's my favorite comic book character out of all comic book characters. And here it just doesn't ring true to what is Spider-Man. There's no responsibility. There's no problems. Yeah, there are problems, but it's just the fact that being a superhero adds more pressure onto his everyday life. Because he has to help his aunt, he has to go out and try to find dates, can't get dates. Here he's just, it's not that much it. You know, it's a really poor movie. If I were to, God, this really is probably my most disappointed Spider-Man movie I've ever seen. I mean, the last movie, I didn't like the third act, but I still liked the movie. Even if it was reboot. So, yeah, I'm just kind of bummed out in general. Yeah. Alright, hope to do some more reviews. Okay, bye.